Just a huge day in the National Football League, the first day that teams could begin to negotiate and in some cases announce agreements. Players can't sign until the first day of the new league year, which is Wednesday at 4 p.m. But, man, just so many deals were out there. It was like drinking from a fire hose. And, you know, especially the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and all the moves they made, none bigger than Samaje Perine.
I know. I was not seeing running back as one of the targets for the Buccaneers.
No one did. Apparently, Jason Light didn't either. God, haven't seen one of these gaffes before, but some fairly credible people put on the interweb, as the kids call it, that Samaje Perine had signed a 3-year, like, I don't know, $8 million a year deal, $24 million deal.
But first of all, were they able to put it on Twitter? Because it was down like all morning.
No, I know. That's another thing. I think
we need a department of Twitter efficiency.
I know, right?
That's what Elon needs to find next.
Doge wasn't doing well. Elon blamed Ukraine. Of course he did. But yeah, so that the Perine story turned out to be, I guess, a clerical error involving a lot of people, including the NFLPA. And it was actually Ben Bredeson's contract, which we'll get to in a minute. He re-signed with the Bucs. Let's start there because, listen, I think tip of the cap, a raise of the glass, whatever you want to do, a toast to Jason Light, Mike Greenberg, and those guys. They do certain things well, and among the best things I think they do well, and we don't know what's going to happen, with the season going forward. But the one thing they're managed to do, if they have a player that has been with them, that makes it to free agency, or in this case, a second and sometimes third contract, and they want that player, and that player is capable of going out and getting a deal someplace else, they will get him signed usually before the start of free agency so that doesn't occur. But sort of I've said this a couple times today, is that, loyalty really is a two-way street. It really is a two-way street. And if you think about Chris Godwin, there's the example of it because, Godwin a couple years ago had that devastating knee injury, and the Bucs had already agreed to sign him to this long-term deal, which he was playing under. And they stood by the guy. They stood by the guy. He worked his butt off. He got back. Unbelievably, he was hurt in December of 2022, I believe, and he got back, or 2021. He got back for the opener, I think, in 2022 against Dallas. And he wasn't the same player. I mean, he just coming off a couple of knee ligament tears and sort of the, not being in training camp really or preseason games. But he started the first game, and the first pass of the game was thrown to him, which I felt they would do. They gave him a safe little, bubble screen so he could take that first hit and on he went. But he ended up having a 1,000-yard season. He missed some time because he hurt his hamstring in that game, but he had a 1,000-yard season. And then, the next year, you have a coaching change. You have Dave Canales. They decide, because he had been beat up quite a bit, to move him outside of the slot to the outside receiver, which was not his position. And he struggled a little bit there, but he still, kind of, fought through it and made the best of it. And then last year, man, under Liam Cohen, they moved him back inside, and he was leading the NFL with 50 catches, for nearly 600 yards, 5 touchdowns. When he took that awful hit really late in the game against the Ravens, when the issue was already decided, his ankle was turned the wrong way. And, a couple of things. One, he was having a great season. 2, he's suffered a devastating injury. So he knows it was just such a crushing time, right? Because playing so well, was playing as well, I think, as he had at any point in his career, which is saying something, and had made it back. And now he's back down the mountain with another grotesque injury. And you just don't know if he's got the fight in him, to come back. And he's a free agent. He's a free agent to boot, right? Whether he stayed here or he went and got his bag someplace else, he had earned a chance to do that. And, here he is with his ankle twisted. So once again, the Bucs stood by him, and he rewarded them because he decided to stay right here in Tampa Bay. And if you believe, according to my sources, Chris Godwin left a lot of money on the table. You could have gotten $30 million more from the New England Patriots. $30 million more from the New England Patriots on a 3-year deal?
Not guaranteed.
No, couldn't have been. But that's what was being put out there. That aside, he signed a pretty good deal. And he's going to get, it's a $66 million deal, 44 million guaranteed. Now, the way I look at that is I take the guarantee, divide it by the number of years, which is really 2. The third year is not going to be guaranteed, obviously. So it's really a 2-year, $44 million contract, 22 million a year. He was making 20.5 for a player that don't know exactly what he's going to be week 1 in the NFL or week 2 or week 5. I think it's kind of fair market value, but they believe that the Patriots would have blown him away. He got 26, 27, 28, close to $30 million on the open market. But Chris Godwin, recognizing loyalty is a two-way street, wanting to stay with his team. And I think he also understood too, and we'll talk to him later today at 3:30 at the One Buck place. But I think he understood too that they got a good thing going here. And who knows how much longer it's going to be around, right? Mike Evans is, 31 going on 32 years old. Chris is 29. But those are the two best receivers this franchise will ever have. And you just don't break up Batman and Robin. And so they're going to, ride out in the sunset together, most likely. But they have a chance to have one more, run at a Super Bowl. And I think they want to do it together. And Baker Mayfield is a great quarterback for Chris Godwin. All those catches on third down, those clutch situations, he looks for Godwin. Godwin's back in the position he needs to be in the slot. And, sometimes the grass is not always greener. As my good friend Tom Moore says, sometimes the grass is greener around the septic tank. And so, you have to weigh that and just the loyalty. I think at the end of the day, that's what it's about. I think there's a loyalty, and I think that it goes both ways, and so they're very excited to have Chris. I know the fans are, and I talked to him too. Like ironically, the week that he was injured, I did a big story on him, right? I'm the kiss of death. And I was talking to him about how far he had come since his last injury. Little did I know he would end up having a season-ending one that Sunday. And the story ran on game day. But that aside, when I was talking to Chris, you know, he was saying just how fortunate he was. He kept talking about, I'm so fortunate. I really, really feel that way. And he goes, we're out at practice today. It was a beautiful day. We get to do what we love. I get paid really well. And people just don't get these opportunities. And he says, but that's not why I play. I'm living a dream. I'm aware of that. It's not why I play. If the money comes, it comes. But I'm here to have a great time and help my teammates and the people around me. And I'm living my dream. And so that dream is going to continue in Tampa. And I know a lot of Bucs fans have to be excited about that. I know his teammates are. And I don't know what we're going to get. I think the Bucs know one thing, that Chris will do absolutely everything he can to get his leg back in shape, get his ankle back in shape. That thing was immobilized for 6 weeks. There's a lot of rehab still involved. I don't know where he's at, or whether he's even able to work out or run yet. But I wouldn't bet against him. They're not going to bet against him. And I think that started really almost when the negotiating period started around noon on Monday. That deal was one of the very first ones that was announced.
Which means it was probably locked in days ago.
Yeah, and maybe they had
Godwin
the ability
wanted to see what was out there in the market. You never know who's going to have stupid money.
Right.
Or maybe they just were just waiting to not show their hand yet.
Well, I think, look, a couple things. One, they can negotiate with their own players at any time. They didn't have to wait.
Correct.
And we all know that even though the NFL designate this as the legal tampering period, how do you get deals with players not on your team announced 5 minutes after noon? It's kind of a joke, right? It's kind of an oxymoron, but because legal tampering is what we call it, and that's jumbo shrimp. But all those conversations happen in Indianapolis at the NFL Combine, right? And so teams get a pretty good idea in talking to the agents what their players that are going to be free agents, may become free agents, are looking for. There also was this thought that, that maybe it wasn't in bad faith, that maybe Chris and his agent were looking around, trying to run up the price on the Bucs a little bit, or at least trying to gain some leverage, because of his injury, and just kind of, other teams I think may have thought all along that he was going to remain in Tampa and that they were being, sort of used to create a market value. I don't know if any of that's true. I had one agent contact me asking if I knew who Chris's surgeon was, and I didn't know who he was this time. I knew who it was the last time, and then I was kind of informed that, from another person that this particular agent may have been trying to find out information for a team, right? To try to call, then you call the doctor and see what you can get. Now, HIPAA rules and all that being what they are. But if it was somebody they had a relationship, maybe you could get a better assessment of what Chris's injury was, where he was at in his rehab. And those are all advantages the Bucs had through this whole process. They could see Chris. They could, have him in the building. They could, check up on where he was and how he was doing. And so I think the Bucs kind of had the inside on that, but at the end of the day, Chris Godwin wanted to be here. They wanted him back, and he very well could be a Buck for life at this point. But it was a nice way for Bucs fans to start off free agency, was to get Chris Godwin back. But there was much more free agent action when it comes to the Buccaneers and, of course, around the league. We'll get to that. But first, speaking of the Buccaneers, if you would like to walk around with the kind of watches they do, they're affordable, and you can get them at Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. Now, the Breitling company's been in business for over 144 years. They've been in International Plaza, the boutique has, for the last 5. It's in the middle of the mall. If you've ever been to International Plaza, go there. If you haven't, what's wrong with you? You go up, you go to the center of the mall. It's upstairs, and it's a terrific store. They really are, focused on customer service. They're used to dealing with professional athletes and celebrities, but they're going to treat you exactly the same way. Go in there, check out what they have right now in terms of men's and women's watches, the Navitimers, the Chronomat watches, which include this 104th year anniversary of the NFL, the special collection, limited edition, all 32 team watches while they last. Not sure how many are left of any of those teams, much less the Buccaneers. You can go to our website, tampabay.com, and probably see a picture of the Buccaneer watch. They have the team colors on the face, the logo, everything is terrific. But it's not just men's watches, it's women's watches as well. And these things are very sports watches. They got all kinds of different kind of wristbands. Very durable. If your wife or girlfriend are on the go, it's going to look great, and it's going to hold up very well. That's Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall, right near the center of the mall, upstairs, second floor. Go in there and make sure you let them know that you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. The Bucs did go outside the building to sign somebody. We'll talk about him in just a minute. But one of their own free agents, in addition to Chris Godwin, that they re-signed, or are going to re-sign, I should say, he agreed to a deal, is Ben Bredeson, the guard that they got last year, free agent from the New York Giants. Wound up starting and playing 99% of the snaps last season, over 1,000 snaps that he played with Tristan Wirfs on that left side of the offensive line. And Bredeson was maybe the unsung hero of that offensive line. I still maintain, Steve, it's the best offensive line I've seen in Tampa, at least since the Super Bowl, and arguably before they're done, I think this could be the best offensive line the Bucs have ever had, and that's saying something.
Well, considering that he wasn't even supposed to be a starter.
No.
Like, he was coming into, was it going to be Robert Hainsey?
He was competing with Sua Opeta, who actually was ahead of him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Opeta was a free agent from the Eagles. He tore his knee and suffered an ACL injury. Bredeson stepped right in there and never gave the job back.
Yep. And look, I think, you're next to Tristan Wirfs, which helps. So
Yes.
you're next to, a future Hall of Famer.
Right.
But you had a rookie center on the other side of you.
That's big.
And so, you had to be good at that guard. I mean, that's going to help Graham Barton's development.
Oh,
you couldn't
God,
just
yeah.
put anybody in that guard spot. And when Bredeson established himself, and as you said, played 99% of the snaps, and then Gedeke missed a game or two, but he was really solid in the right. Like, the whole offensive line came together this year.
Yeah.
Tristan Wirfs moving the left side, Graham Barton, but don't underestimate how important the guards were in that offensive line, especially with a rookie center next to you.
Yeah, and Cody Mauch grew up a little bit on the right side, but you make the best point is this that you just said. What he was able to do for Graham Barton, who's a rookie, being next to him, because Bredeson had played some center. He was drafted by the Ravens. He went to the Giants. He had played a couple of positions, and center was one of the ones he had played. And so he was really a big help to Graham, who had his moments, right? He had his rookie moments, even in the postseason. He had them, but he told me after the season just how beneficial Bredeson was to him, having him next to him playing inside. And that's a big offensive line. That's an aggressive offensive line. Those guys can all move well. Talked to Bredeson, when the year was over, he really wanted to come back. And continuity wins in this league, but continuity on the offensive line is everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you can keep those five guys together in some semblance of of way, and they had injuries. They had their injuries last year.
Mm-hmm.
You can just go down the line and say, well, they had to play Justin Scully for a while at both tackle positions. I think Wirfs missed a game. Luke Gedeke missed 4 with his concussion.
Yep.
And so they had to. Robert Hainsey started a game because Graham Barton was out. So
congratulations to Robert. He signed with the Jaguars.
He did, and he's going to be a starter there, and I'm happy for him. He got something like $7 million, $8 million a year.
Yep.
And then that's tough, but the Bucs have their center for the future. They'll have to get some good backups or develop them. But I think Bredeson, all those guys being together again, and not just being back together next season, but you had guys grow up, right? They learned to play together. Barton will no longer be a rookie. Malk would be in his 3rd year. And then, you have all pro tackles, really quality tackles. I mean, look, Gedeke hadn't made a Pro Bowl yet. He's very deserving of it. He's very deserving of a Pro Bowl. I think he'll make one before this is over. And if you take those 5 guys and realize they went from 32nd in the league the previous 2 years, some of them not here, obviously Bredeson wasn't, and went from 32nd in rushing to 4th in rushing, and had Bucky Irving go over 1,000. They rode great people. They rode great people, and the most success they had running the ball, Steve, was inside. They drafted Bucky Irving thinking he was going to be the outside guy, the 3rd down guy, maybe change the pace back. Turns out Bucky Irving runs inside zone better than he does outside zone. And so his real success came running where? Between the center and the guards.
No question about it. And 2 things on this. One was you re-signed Ben Bredeson.
Mm-hmm.
All 11 starters back from a top 5 offense.
Yeah, that's right.
Huge.
That's right. Huge. All 11, yeah.
Yep. You've got every starter coming back next year.
Wow.
And so, you had a top 5 offense. Now you have a new offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
But he was in the building and a part of it. So that helps.
Same scheme, same terminology for the first time in a while.
But 2, and I think this is underrated, is maybe one of the best things Jason Light has done with this team is completely rebuild the offensive line when you had you thought you had your offensive line you were establishing 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
But then Ryan Jensen gets hurt.
Yep.
Ends his career.
Yep.
And Ali Marpet retires. Much earlier than you would have anticipated.
At 28, that blew them away. Nobody anticipated that.
And so all of a sudden you lose 2/5 of your offensive line there.
Mm-hmm.
And he has retooled it within 2-3 years, and it's one of the best ones in football.
Yeah.
Moving Wirfs to the left, finding Gedeke for your right tackle, drafting Graham Barton, finding Ben Bredeson as a free agent. Like, that's one of the most impressive. I mean, the offensive line is so hard in this league.
Oh, it is.
Because you don't get the practice time, you don't get the physicalness in OTAs and even training camp. And
just what's coming out of college, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about what's coming out of college. These guys are never in a 3-point stance. They're always set up to pass protect on every single down. They're looking to the sideline, right, for the plays. They're never in a huddle. Like, there's so much technique that they have to learn coming out of college that it's not an easy transition.
Mm-hmm. No question. And to retool that offensive line and all of a sudden it's one of the best in the football again, like that's maybe one of the most impressive things he's done.
I agree. And Jason knows offensive line play, and he's found guys from Division III, Division II schools. Marpet was a Division III at Hobart College. He knows what it looks like, and he's done a good job of building them. And that's going to be the strength of their team, of their whole team, of their offense, certainly, but really of their whole team. And it brings a mentality to that offense. It brings a physicality when you can run the football. The only way you can really be physical on offense in the NFL or really football in general, is to run the ball. Pass protecting, if you have to do that all day, yeah, the game's going that way, and the rules favor the quarterback, and you can't hit the guy below the waist, and you can't hit him in the head, and you can't touch a receiver and all that. It's a passing league. But if you really, really want to beat a team, you have to be able to run the ball and attack them and come off the ball and move people. And that's what this offensive line, which has size and athleticism. I mean, Tristan Wirfs could and did play shortstop, when he was growing up. I mean, his feet are unbelievable for a guy that's 336 pounds. And they have a lot of guys that are athletic, like that on that offensive line. So they've done a nice job. They're only going to get better, and keeping the band together, especially with Bredeson coming back, I think is huge. Now, they did step outside of the box a little bit and managed to find, which I think, for the time being, it kind of solves, if you will, their outside pass rusher that they've been needing so badly. They have agreed to terms with Haason Reddick. And he's somebody, I'll be honest with you, man, fell off the radar because he had 4 years where he was in double-digit sack numbers. He had, I think, over 50 sacks in 4 years with Carolina and a couple of 3 years with the Eagles. And he had 16 one season. He finished second in the league. And then all of a sudden, he wants an extension before his contract is up with Philadelphia. They say no. They trade him to the Jets, where everybody kind of assumed, well, you're not going to make this trade unless you're going to sign him to an extension, right? Well, the Jets weren't and didn't. And he held out. And he didn't just hold out. He never showed up for the longest time. He didn't come to minicamp, mandatory or otherwise. He didn't come to OTAs. He didn't come to training camp. He missed the first 7 games of the season. Now, all the while, you're being fined, right, for not reporting to camp. You're being fined for not being in preseason games. And those fines started adding up because he was still playing under his old deal. And as one guy, told me with the Bucs, it's like, Reddick almost played for free last year because, while they dropped some of the fines, he didn't get paid, for those game checks, and you get and they tried to do some things with bonus money, but he only made about 750,000 of the bonuses that they made available to him, and it was really tough on him. But he did play in the final 10 games. I guess he had 2.5 sacks, which, to put that in perspective, Joe Tryon Showenko, who played all 17 games, had 2. But this guy, when he's right, he has pedigree and he has production. And like I said, 4 straight double-digit sack seasons, not that long, not that far removed from it. I think you got a guy that's going to be motivated. What I was told is he's pissed off. He think about the money that defensive edge rushers are making in this latest round of free agency, right? It's astronomical. Myles Garrett got $40 million a year, right? I mean, when you think about that. And so if you're somebody who's averaging double-digit sacks, had he not kind of gotten, sideways with the Eagles, and then the Jets decided not to sign him to a new deal, he's still on a kind of a make or break contract with the Bucs. 1 year, $14 million. I think $12 million of it's guaranteed or so. That's nowhere near the kind of money that he could and should be making, but not for the whole fiasco with the Jets last year. So he feels like he should be getting his bag. He feels like he's still one of the best pass rushers in the league. He's not over the hill at 30. So I kind of like the siding. I don't. Oh, and by the way, this is the other thing, Steve. They have somebody that knows him really well, and it's Larry Foote, who coached him with the Arizona Cardinals when he came out of the league at Temple as a first-round pick.
I don't think they make this deal if they didn't have that relationship.
I agree with that. I think that's the biggest thing I heard.
Mm-hmm. Now, the thing is, and you see the history, the holdouts, the not reporting in this, and the Bucs went through this last year with what? Randy Gregory.
Maybe
not the same situation.
He had some issues that were unrelated, but yeah.
Right. But he's been this way before. Is he going to come in and say, I'm worth more than this? And have
that's a good point.
I mean, You just don't know. Now, having the relationship with Larry Foote with him, and I'm assuming it was a good relationship if the Bucs went out and signed him.
Right.
But to be honest, $12 million, it's not that big of a gamble.
It's not a huge
for
gamble.
that position. For that position, it's not.
Yeah, and a guy that has that production, right? The only year his streak was broken because he didn't report to the Jets until week after 7 games. So this is a guy that averaged 10 sacks a game, had 50-something sacks in 4 years. So yeah,
what you worry about is has a good first game, a good second game. Well, I want a new deal now. That's honestly a concern. Now, I don't think it's a reason not to sign him, and I think the Bucs did good in signing him. I think it's a smart gamble.
Well, I got some news
based on his history. Based on his history, there's always that chance it could happen.
If he comes out and we're sitting here and it's November and he's got 10 sacks already, they will be signing him to a new deal. They'll be begging him to take it. He may tell them, "I'm good. I'm going to hit free agency and make 40 a year."
Absolutely.
Then they may be the ones that are sorry. But for now, if he could have done better than a 1-year deal, believe me, he would have taken it somewhere.
Yep.
And I do think that Larry Foote's a big part of this. But you need another guy, right? You need another guy to be a game wrecker. They didn't have any game wreckers on the outside. I think Yaya Diaby's going to be a really good player in this league. Do I think he's going to be Simeon Rice? No, I don't. You know who I think he could be? He could be Shaq Barrett. Now, I don't know he's going to have that magical 19 and a half sack season, but he could be that guy that, after about 4 years, the light bulb comes on and he tears it apart, and gets consistent with double-digit sacks.
Yep.
I think that's his upside, right? I don't think he's going to be an all-pro. I think, if he had a great year, he could make a Pro Bowl, but I think he's capable of 10 sacks. But if you put somebody on the other side, like a JPP, remember, Pierre Paul was on the upside side of Shaq, drew a lot of heat.
Yep.
And that enabled Shaq to get off. So they rush as a tandem. And then inside, you got two of the best pass rushing defensive tackles in football. Vita Vea is 30, but, between him, and the strength that he has, pushing the pocket. You've got 4 guys now that Todd Bowles can say, "Go get them," and I can drop 7, to cover 5. Now I can create some plays. Now I can get my corners a little tighter coverage. I have a chance because I can double team some people, and the math works for you. But when you have to bring blitzes, when you have to bring 5 and 6 and 7 guys to try to get to the quarterback, then that leaves a lot of open space back there. Too much. There's already a lot of space anyway in football these days, but that leaves too much space. So I like the signing. I don't know, but I'm with you. He's not Randy Gregory, but he's Gregory-like, right? Like he's a guy that's kind of like, okay, had a down year, a little pissed off, not really sure. He really wants his money. Is he going to be happy here? Like all those things, have one eyebrow up. But if you look at the pool of players that were out there,
mm-hmm.
Who would you have preferred to have gotten? I think they did a good job.
Well, like you said, it's a 1-year deal. It's not that much money. It's not that huge of a gamble. For that position.
Right.
And I don't think they're done at that position.
You could still draft the guy. It could be the first pick could be an outside edge rusher. Yeah.
To be honest, I probably still would make the first pick an outside pass rusher.
If you're not reaching,
pending a guy there that's worth it at that point.
Yeah, you can't reach, but this enables them not to have to do that. And I think the best thing you could say about free agency, and I've always said this, it's a little bit of a placebo. Like the bust rate is just like it is in the draft. But if you can cover yourself in free agency, if we get done with free agency anytime on the eve of the NFL draft, if you can look at your roster as it's consisted then before the draft, and you say, hey, if we got to play the Atlanta Falcons tomorrow, how do we stack up? Can we win this game with what's on our roster right now? That's what you want. You want a football team that can be competitive before you get to the draft, because then you can just concentrate on getting the best damn football players. You don't have to say, I need a really good player at linebacker, or I need a really good player at the edge, or I need a really good wide receiver. you can just go out there, and if the best player is there on your board, you can take him. And everybody says, hey, he was our best guy on our board when we drafted. Usually what they mean is he's the best guy at the position of need, and that's not always the best guy, as we know. So if you can cover yourself at all those positions, now they can take at 19 an edge rusher, or they can take an inside linebacker, or maybe they take a corner. Or Todd Bowles said he wants a receiver, another receiver on this team, even after signing Godwin. So, I think it's a good signing from that standpoint. I really do. There were some other big deals in the NFL, and I think maybe look, the quarterback position is the one that we're all waiting for, right? Sam Darnold, as expected, after the Seahawks let Geno Smith go to the Raiders, he ends up in Seattle. He got a very Baker Mayfield-like deal, right? I think it was $105 million, 3-year deal, very similar in terms of guaranteed money and all that. The problem is, I assume the Vikings may have taken him back. I'm not really sure like what their status was or stance was on that. But he's taking a risk because, he's leaving the perfect coach, the best personnel, and going to a Seattle team that doesn't have DK Metcalf. They really don't have any receivers to speak of. But he does have a coach and a coordinator that he's familiar with. I think what it came down to is, when is he ever going to be in a better position to get a big contract? And I'm sorry, but if you throw $100 million at me, I'll make it work. I'm confident enough to make it work, whether it's Seattle or any other place. So good luck to him. I can't imagine he could have a better supporting cast than he had in Minnesota. And then another domino that fell, Justin Fields goes to the New York Jets. I think that's a good fit. I know Pittsburgh had some interest in retaining him, but up on Fields, frankly, last year you started 4-2. You decided to make the switch. You went to Russell Wilson, and I don't want to compete for a job. You kind of showed me what you thought of me, so I want a fresh start, and I think he's a good fit, with the New York Jets. And then we had, where did Chase Young, who is with the Commanders of late?
Yeah, he went to the Saints. So in the division, you're going to see 3 years of Chase Young.
Yeah, back with the Saints. So yeah, the Saints. I mean, look, I think they're still a couple years away from putting that thing back together. They decided to keep Derek Carr. I want to see how that works out, for him. I'm not sure they had better options in free agency. The one that we're waiting for now, though, is Aaron Rodgers. And from what I hear, he should already be in Pittsburgh. That seems to be where he's headed to me.
It's interesting. I mean,
if not Pittsburgh, where?
The Giants, I guess, but
Minnesota? I mean, they're not going to take him on.
Well,
the Giants.
I think they're going to J.J. McCarthy.
I would agree with you. I think it's almost like either Pittsburgh or the Giants have to sign this guy, right? Like one of them needs that guy as their starting quarterback, in my opinion.
I mean, if you look statistically last year, he had a good season.
Yeah, he was fine.
I mean, the Jets weren't good. And
no.
Some of it was his play at times, but it was a lot of other factors as well. Put him under Mike Tomlin, and with that team that always makes the playoffs, always has a winning record.
Yeah.
And you got a quarterback that can push the ball down the field.
Yeah. You know what it is with Rodgers is you get so much more, right? Mm-hmm. You get so much more. The Pat McAfee show, all of that. But here's what I think is different than the Jets. The Jets have been a mess for years, right? They haven't won since 1969 with Joe Namath, really won.
Yep.
And so you go there, it's New York, big fanfare, the Achilles thing, we know what happened, all of that, right? But it's just such a media spotlight, and he got so weird there for a while. We had to live through his rehab, and then we had to live through the coaching changes and all of that. And things just went south in a hurry. He didn't play bad per se, but he didn't win. And the difference is, if you go to a Pittsburgh Steelers franchise, you're walking into something that's already established, right? The culture is there. Iron Mike Tomlin is Iron Mike. Like, that's not an act. That's who that guy is. We were around him in Tampa Bay. He can be scary, There's not going to be any BSing anyone in Pittsburgh, in the Steel City. Those people work hard. They love the Steelers, and think about the history. And even Rodgers, I heard him talking, I think on McAfee or somewhere, about how much respect, I mean, this is a guy who had his greatest days with the Green Bay Packers, right? Is there a more storied, franchise than that? Yeah, the Steelers. The Steelers are. So, you walk into that culture with Mike Tomlin as your head coach. You're just part of the reason we're going to win. You're not the show, And so from that standpoint, I think he'd have to be humbled to play there. And also he seems very, very almost excited about the prospects of maybe being a Steeler.
Well, and then you add DK Metcalf and George Pickens, and
absolutely,
you've got weapons.
Good defense. I mean, they win 9 or 10 games with no quarterback every year.
Mm-hmm.
Not that Russ's numbers were bad because they were good. They actually played, but when they needed to play a team with a winning record down the stretch, they couldn't beat them. They weren't good enough to beat them. And a lot of that was quarterback play, not all of it, but a good portion of it. But I think they needed a receiver. They got him in Metcalf. Now, if you were to add Aaron Rodgers, he's not going to run around. He doesn't have the mobility. The dude can still absolutely throw the ball. You throw the ball, he knows where to go with it. He makes quick decisions. He's accurate. And, maybe you can squeeze all the football you can out of him for one more season. Tough division. You're going to have to find a way to beat Baltimore, and that's not going to be easy. Cincinnati as well. But I think that's where he's headed. It's either there or the Giants. And if I were Aaron Rodgers, I'd rather go to Pittsburgh if I want to win. I mean, at this point, that's all you should care about. Your legacy is your legacy. You got one more bite of the apple to try to get to a Super Bowl and win it. I think he would go to Pittsburgh. So we'll see. Maybe by the time he listens to this podcast, he's already somewhere. But to me, that's the next big quarterback domino to drop. Some Rays news as well. We got a new ownership group. Is that right? One from Tampa now?
Well, a lawyer came forward and says he's got a group interested in buying the Rays, putting him on the Tampa side, presumably, although didn't commit to that. But no names, and haven't talked to Stu about it. So they've talked to baseball apparently about it. But
if you want to buy my house, don't talk to my neighbors. Come to my door. I'm just saying.
Yeah, don't go to the HOA and talk. Come to me.
No. What good is that going to do you? Hey, there's somebody who wants to buy your house. Really? Who? I don't know. They were talking to the HOA the other day about it. Well, have them come see me.
Now, do I believe there's a group that
there's always a group?
Absolutely.
There's always a group.
That's what we've talked about for a long time now. There's always a group. I mean, or groups that wants to.
Yeah.
How serious? How legit? How funded. Are they? Is TBD.
That's a big word, funded.
This stuff gets messier before it gets done, if it gets done. But I got to think there's somewhat of a timeline.
Well, the March thing is still there, right? I mean, the deadlines are still there for.
That's the point. If Stu is going to sell, then presumably there's kind of a end of the March deadline to at least have something in place. It doesn't have to mean it's sold, but because if the new group wants to execute on the current stadium deal, now Pinellas County and the city of St. Pete could extend it pending a sale and not have to have the decision by March 31st. I mean, I suppose it's all possible. Everything's a negotiation. Everything's possible.
I think you could do that for a new group. I don't think they'll do it for Stu.
But the other question is, does Stu want to sell? I mean, there's reports that some of the owners and Rob Manfred are pressuring him to sell, which generally means at some point he will.
Right.
Whether it happens now or into the future, who knows?
Yeah.
So it feels like, I mean, I moved here 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's been the same conversations for 15 years. We thought we had it fixed. Thought it was solved. Thought it was over. Last summer.
Rays are here to stay.
Yep. You don't hear that much anymore, do you?
Nope. I didn't even get a sticker. Yep. Well, the one thing I know about sales and franchise sales, I kind of lived through it with the Buccaneers back in the day, is one, you got to have a willing party that wants to sell, and that would be Sternberg, if in fact he ever gets there. And two, you got to have a couple groups bidding on it, because if you're bidding against yourself, you're not going to get the best price.
Yep.
So it would really be in Sternberg's advantage to, to see that there were multiple groups that want to come forward and buy his baseball team, because that's the only way he's going to get the best deal possible. And he's going to get it on the last possible day.
Yep. And to keep putting it out there that you're not going to sell.
Yes. Do not say I'm out and put your chips in the middle.
Don't put a for sale sign out front.
No. Make them knock on your door and beg you to leave, and try to entice you, because otherwise, if they think you're bent on going anyway, you're not going to get a good price. You're not going to get fair market value. So it's all a big game, and you get the best offer on the final day. Deadlines exist for a reason. Maybe the March situation will come to pass or not. But if you're Sternberg, you want to sit back and say, yeah, man, who else? Who else can put together some money for me? And then you got a decision to make. It seems like it's headed that way, because I don't think Sternberg is really intent on getting anything done with St. Pete anymore, which is mind-boggling when you had a deal and you backed out of it and caused a delay. And yeah, maybe the county commission elections delayed some things, but it makes no sense whatever they're doing now. But man, what a thing to have. And this is the other, to have this coincide with the start of a season which is unique and troublesome, and you're displaced, and you're in Tampa, and you're led, Steinbrenner Field and all that. Like, that's hard enough, right? Not that the players on a daily basis are thinking about all this ownership stuff, but it's a thing, right? It's a thing. You don't have to have that cloud over your franchise to start a new season. So, anytime you want to make a decision, Stu, you could help everybody. And I mean everybody. I mean podcast people to, the hot dog vendor that wants to know what the hell you plan on doing with this franchise. If you're going to keep it, announce that. Keep it. If you're going to move it, try to move it. Good luck with that, because baseball doesn't want you to. But declare your intentions. And, of course, he won't, because, that's not how you get the best price for your franchise. So we'll see. I'm sure there are a number of groups that probably would like that baseball team and would like those development rights, which is the other thing. Part of this story is the city of St. Petersburg at some point might just say, yeah, I don't care what deal you guys cut on the side with somebody else. We're taking back the development. If you're not in, where the deal is null and void, and the city will just develop the property themselves and reap the benefits from it. So that might make something worse instead of better. So, but that saga is it's crazy to follow, while we're getting closer and closer. What are we still 3 weeks maybe from the start of the Major League season?
No, we are 17 days away.
Oh, just 17 days. Oh, the 27th. Okay,
yeah,
good.
2 weeks from this Friday.
All right. Well, there you go. Wow, that's coming fast. I think spring training is way too long. Way too long.
Did you see, by the way, Garrett Cole, the Yankees, having Tommy John surgery?
Yeah, that's a shame, isn't it?
Well, I don't wish injury on anyone.
I don't either, but is this his second one too, by the way? Or his
might
first?
Be.
Yeah. I mean, look, all those guys, it's a matter of when, not if. I mean, the velocity, the spin rate, all those things, whatever's happening with the arms in baseball these days from youth league up is a damn shame. No one's figured it out. You almost have to accept it's going to happen. What Shane McClanahan has he had 3 now in his career? I think that was
he's
his
had
third.
2. Rasmussen's had 3, I believe.
Oh, okay, Rasmussen. Okay, so yeah, so when you start getting into multiple Tommy Johns, that's when it's like, okay,
What's amazing is that he can come back from multiple ones. Like,
well,
it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
Second one was your career's over.
Yeah. No, they definitely perfected the procedure, and these guys are able to, and the velocity. That's the other thing. Like, they're saying that McClanahan was throwing in upper 90s, which is crazy to me, that you could have that rebuilt elbow. But good for modern medicine and good for them. Hopefully it stays intact. But man, it's epidemic in the game, and it's the one thing that, and for pitchers too that only go out there and throw 5 innings. I mean, let's be honest. You're not asking them, get complete games for us. But you are asking them to give you all you have on every pitch, right? And that's been, I think, a big change in the health of some of these arms. All right, so we'll have more free agency tomorrow as the legal tampering period continues. Of course, free agency actually begins at 4 o'clock on Wednesday. Chris Godwin will talk to us tomorrow afternoon as well.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that plus the Rays.
Lightning play in Carolina tonight, start a 3-game road trip and 6 of the next 7 on the road.
Yeah, man,
looking to bounce back from a less than stellar effort on Saturday afternoon against the Bruins.
It's a good way to put it, but yeah, it's a brutal road stretch for them right now to go back on the road. But yeah, we'll look forward to watching them. And anytime you want to submit your questions to us, you can do that on Twitter or X at SportsDayTV. You can reach me at NFL Stroud, or my email address is rstroud@tampabay.com. Please see our friends at Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. Go get yourself a beautiful Chronomat watch, a Navitimer. Breitling's been in business for 144 years. They've been in International Plaza for about 15. They got the NFL collection right now, limited edition, 104th year anniversary watches. Every team in the NFL, all 32 represented, while supplies last. So make sure you get down there and also tell them that you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. For Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.